Thank you for visiting Harvest Anglican Church. We're so glad that you're here. We hope that you're blessed by this message, and we hope that you can join us next time we gather. So be sure to look at our website, harvestsc.org, and find the next worship event and join us. God bless you.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Or as we would say in Tanzania, habari asubuhi kanisi. Habari asubuhi kanisi. That is good morning, church. It's amazing to learn their language because some of the things that struck me when I first got over there and started working in missions work, especially with the school, is understanding that when our kids come to our school in preschool, they only speak their tribal language. Then in primary school, they learn their government's language, Kiswahili. And then when they go to high school, they're supposed to do everything in English without having any English courses whatsoever. And so whenever I talk about, when I speak in Swahili, I'm reminded of the fact that, how much I didn't understand when people were, just engaging me in Swahili. And I had no clue what they were saying. And how that must be for the kids when they go to these different schools and they're not prepared. And of course, our school is English medium to prepare. Now, while I'm going to be talking, you're going to see some photos up there. Most of them are going to be kids smiling. Those are the good ones. There's some like that one that's pictures of our buildings, which are kind of boring and bland. But yes, we have buildings that are classrooms. When Travis and I first started talking about this, first of all, a little bit of history about me and Travis, and he said he's known me a long time. We moved to Malden United Methodist Church when I was a year old. That's when we came back and lived in this area. My parents had lived here before. And so I grew up in Fountain Inn, went to Malden United Methodist Church my whole life. Travis grew up there pretty much as well, so we know a lot about each other. And so I was real happy when I came in today, and there were 2 tags. And I asked Casey about the second one. She goes, "That's your nursery number in case you misbehave." And I thought that was pretty good because I'm still known over at Malden United Methodist Church Malden Methodist Church. Almost messed up there. I'm still known as the little Hendrix boy because I grew up there as the youngest of 4 boys since I was 1 year old. But he asked me what verse did I want to talk about today. There are so many wonderful verses in the Bible about doing things for God. When God gives you those opportunities to go forth in His name and do things. And Old Testament, you got Jonah and the whale and his work with the Nazarenes. You have Isaiah saying, "Here I am." You have multiple times in the New Testament where people are given chances and go forth. They even talk about sending out the groups of people to go forth and do things in Jesus' name, heal people, and things of that nature. They're just wonderful, wonderful chances. And one that speaks loudly to me is the one we did today where in James, he's talking about faith and deeds. And making sure we understand that those two are not separate issues. You do not have faith alone. You do not have deeds alone. When he talks in that one sentence about, "I will show you my faith through my deeds," that's what it's really about. Because if you have true faith, and I learned this the hard way because I spent many years not being a Christian, even though I grew up in a church. I was an official pew warmer. I came in and I kept a seat warm, and that was about my extent of my relationship with Christ. But when I finally got a chance to develop a real relationship with Him, on my very first trip to Tanzania in 2001 to design a rainwater harvesting system, which thankfully is still operational today, 20-something years later, 100,000 liters, I began to understand there was a place for me, but I had trouble recognizing when was I really a Christian? Just because I was thinking about it, was I really a Christian? Had I really accepted it? It wasn't until I realized I no longer went on these trips for one reason or another. I went on these trips because I was feeling called to. I felt called to the point where I gave up my engineering practice here in Greenville and went full-time in Tanzania to do engineering mission work. And I specifically wanted to do engineering mission work, not become clergy and preach. There are thousands of people going over to Tanzania and preaching. The number of people going over and making sure things get built and that people understand why they're being built, and integrating people in that process, making them feel a part of it, letting them experience their relationship with God through the work. There's only a couple of us. So it's important to me that I do that. But it was through deeds that I understood my faith. I truly grasped what it meant to be a follower of Christ because I was doing deeds. And it was because the faith had been working silently in me to change me, to convince me convict me of my sin, help me get through it, and repent, and go back to trying to do good things. There are a lot of times people think deeds, that's the whole thing. That's not it. If you don't have faith, your deeds are going to be put in the wrong places. They're not going to be active in the way that God needs them to be active. You have to have both working together as one thing. That was important to me. And so when I first got my chance to go to Tanzania as a full-time missionary, I went at first to do a medical clinic. And I spent about 3.5 years there working on a medical clinic, getting it up and running, and making sure it was operating the way we wanted it to. And then that one kind of ended abruptly, out of nowhere. It kind of came to a close. And I was shocked. I was like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? What? But God had another place for me to go. And it was an engineering friend of mine who I've known for 20-something years because we worked together in engineering fields. His brother-in-law was building a school in Tanzania, and they were having problems. And so they convinced me to go to this school. And I've been there 7.5 years and don't think I'm going to leave anytime soon. It's Tumaini Evangelistic Pre and Primary School with kids like this who don't know how to use a slide properly. And Tumaini means hope. And what I say is this school is hope. The area we're in is a Maasai tribal area. Maasai are cattle people. They used to be nomadic. They used to move their herds with the rains and the grass. And only in the last 10 to 12 years have they started settling down in areas and truly building homes that last and staying in one area. And that's partially because of the increase in population, partially because land's getting other uses other than just for cattle. But they're having a hard time adapting to these new ways and things like, we talk about cattle economy sometimes over there. They lived on a cattle economy. They're cattlemen. They only know cattle. That's all they ever think about. And so when they want to trade or buy something, it's based on a goat or a sheep or a cow. It's all based on an animal livestock trade. There was no money changed hands. And so now they're in a system where it's a cash economy, and they're not used to that. They're not trained for it. They haven't done it. And so now they've got to get their kids into school. Well, the government schools in Tanzania, all schools really, but in government schools especially, a passing grade is 20%. 20%. That's cumulative. So the average of all your test scores, all your subjects have to be 20%, and you are considered passing. How can anybody do anything with a passing grade of 20%? Especially when you talk about the fact that they're architects, they're engineers, they're doctors, and especially their teachers go to college using that same standard. 20% is passing. It's nothing like going to a doctor who has 1 year of college and his grades were 20% and feeling confident that he's going to solve your problem. I also have a hard time believing teachers who did the same thing at 20% and who took classes from people in English who didn't speak English, that they can now effectively communicate. So we've got a lot of struggles we have to overcome there. One of the ones we had to do was build our own school so we could set our own standards. Our school is actually 1.5 miles away from a government school, but it is mostly from a side kids. We do bus in kids who are further than 1 mile away, so they come from different tribes. At our school, my standard is 60%. 60%, you get to go on up. Less than 60%, guess what? You get to study some more. I have a hard time with teachers who've never had a 60% standard trying to get their kids ready to meet a 60% standard. So I have to train teachers as much as I have to work with kids. My first project was, of course, to build buildings. We now have 10 classrooms and 5 classroom buildings, 2 offices, a dining hall, a kitchen, latrines, pump house, headmaster's house, and my house. Now, just to make sure you understand, I didn't go in there thinking I was going to get this big glorious house or anything like that because I'm a foreigner. When they told me I had to build one on the school site, my design is 125 square feet. And that's my living space in Tanzania. Headmaster's house is 8 times the size of mine. That's our kids in formation. They have 2 uniforms. One's the blue checkered with the dark blue shorts or skirts, and the other one is a tracksuit. I hate the tracksuit. It always looks bad. I also don't like formation time because I'm an old military man, and I would like to see formations look like formations. And and kids are jumping between lines because somebody's coming around to inspect fingernails, make sure they've been clipped recently. He's dodging back and forth to try and avoid the person who's inspecting, or if their shirt is torn or whatever, they're dodging. And so formations are never quite what you expect formations to be. But what I can tell you is that my time there has changed me. Every missionary tells you they get more blessed than what they give out. And it's true. I think there's a reason for that. I think all of us are broken. All of us are hurting. And God gives us these opportunities sometimes to heal ourselves. They could have done this without us. Maybe not our money, but they could have built the buildings without my intervention. I can tell you for certain, the trips to Peru, they have guys there building. They could have easily have built the buildings without us a lot quicker, probably cheaper, everything. But our presence was important. My presence over there, living as they live, is important. But it's also important to me because it gives me a chance to feel healed as well. When I'm sitting out on the grounds while the kids are finishing up their first meal of the day and all the preschool kids get in a line to come up and give me a hug, it's healing to me. And I didn't even know that could happen to me because I've never been a kid person. But I am now. I like kids. I would not have said that 10 years ago. But when you have, 40-something kids come up and give you a hug every single day, you start to change a little bit. And that happened there as well. These kids are not like our kids. They have hard lives. A large part of their day is spent gathering water for their family, gathering firewood to cook food, scrubbing pots with sand so they can cook the food. They often do all the food prep, the kids do. They have to herd the cattle from the watering sources back to the houses. They have hard lives, and they work a lot. And it's difficult for them, and I have to recognize this, for them to study when they're not in school. It's the reason why they're so happy at school. I know that. They're happy. And we even had extra classes when we took our summer break and the school closed for it. They were coming to classes if they lived close enough to walk in, mostly for the kids that are going to be taking their standardized government tests this year. But a lot of kids came in because that meant they didn't have to work at home. They weren't out gathering firewood, gathering water all day long, or having to work the cattle. They could do that for a couple hours at night but they could come and spend a couple of days with us. At our school, they get 2 meals a day, which is more than they would get if they were at home. They normally get 1 meal a day. It's normally in the evening, and that's pretty much it. They get 2 from us. One is porridge, which is, and excuse me, I have to constantly wet my whistle a little bit. Porridge, which is about 25-30% sugar. So you can imagine how much fun that is. A bunch of kids all hyped up on sugar. And the second one is going to be rice and beans, ugali and beans, or corn and beans. You may have caught on to a theme there, beans. You would think, being cattle people, we would have meat on our menu every once in a while. They don't kill the cattle to eat. I've never seen them do that except for special occasions. Like I had my 55th birthday party. I paid to kill a goat for us to eat. People came from around to eat that goat because that's the only time they got meat. Huge, when our pastor got elevated to a bishop in the community, we had some goat meat in a stew so they could make it last longer. So you've got all this that's them eating porridge there. So you have all these kind of things going on. So I have had the lucky opportunity to have God forgive me, give me my faith, and then give me something to do with that faith. And allow me to do deeds that not only help others, but help me. Help me understand what He has given me. Help me heal myself. Help me forgive myself. I don't know if any of y'all have things you've done in your past you're so ashamed of that it hurts you sometimes. I do. And it helps to know that God has put me here to help heal myself as much as it is for me to do anything. I'm blessed by that. God has done all this for all of us. He gives us these kids. This is an evangelical school. We have morning worship every morning. We have Friday afternoon Bible classes, and those kids can sing. I mean, if I go home for some reason, I'll hear them singing. They're going wild. And they love songs that have actions. Father Abraham is an all-time favorite. It includes some chopping of people every once in a while. They love the hokey pokey too, especially when I'm there doing it with them, because I'm a little more animated than any adult will be with them. So when I do the shake it all about, they get excited. Of course, I have no self-esteem or something like that. So this school is providing something that they wouldn't have had before. Yes, they could have gone to a government school. What would they have gotten out of it? At 20%? I can't really tell you. Here, they're going to do a better education. They're going to get better grades. They're going to have access to textbooks. They're going to have me challenging their English every single day, to the point where they try to avoid me sometimes. Because when I say, "How are you?" I do not accept the standardized answer of "I am fine," which is what they say every single time if you ask them, "I am fine." No. Give me a different word. Let's try. What are your adjectives today? Are you excited? Are you happy? Are you hungry? Are you sad? Are you slow? Go through all those. Are you supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? What are you today? So I get those kind of fun things as well. But these kids get opportunities that they didn't have before. We've got kids from Maasai and tribal villages that the girls would have just been married off. Matter of fact, a lot of them don't see the sense in them going to school because they think they're just supposed to get prepared to get married off. So now we've got girls with opportunities. We've got boys with opportunities. There's nothing wrong if they decide they want to be married. And that's it. That's their choice. They can do it. If a boy wants to continue what his father did and just raise cattle, more power to him. But if he wants to become a teacher, an architect, engineer, if he wants to become a doctor, nurse, she wants to become any of these things, the first step to doing that is education. If they even want a chance at any of that, they have to have education. They have to have an education that's worth something. And that's what our school is about. It's about making sure that all the kids, boys and girls, get to come. We have lots of arguments over things along those lines. The fact that most of our top students are girls, I think, should settle these arguments, but they don't always. The fact that their president right now is a female, their first female president, should settle some of these arguments about women can't do certain things. It does not. It's still a very misogynistic society. And we have to fight through that. So we've got all that going on. A lot of these pictures from my 55th birthday party. So the kids were really happy that day because it was a big party. But it's also about, you want to ask me during our lunch, if you see a specific kid up here and you want to describe them to me, I'll do my best to tell you their name, their personality, how they're doing in our school. And we have 230 kids. And I can guarantee you I can do that for about 80% of them. Because I'm blessed to be there with them every single day, to learn about who they are, what they're going to try and achieve in life, and what part I get to play in it. I don't know how much longer I get to play that part, but I hope it's for a while. That's when they actually accepted me as a Messiah in the village. That has ticked off the people I work with here in the States, the Frank and Doug, who are part of B2BU Ministries, who's the group I'm with, because they only got labeled white Messiah. I got Messiah. So, apparently I'm special. That's Gertruda. Gertruda's just the doll. If you get to meet Gertruda if you ever want to come over and meet some of these kids, call me up. Because I would love that. Especially now that we have a missionary couple that's built a missionary house a half mile away that you can stay at. So you don't have to travel back and forth to town over the roads all the time. Roads there are rough. They're rough. It's also hot a lot of the time. We're 3 degrees off the equator. Our daylight hours do not change much, about 30 minutes over the course of the year. So I know sunset's going to be somewhere between 6:30 and 7 every single day throughout the year. It's not going to change. I also know it's going to be hot from about October until February. The entire month of February, my office temperature gauge read 119. So I replace computers quite often because I sweat on them too much. That's them with their, I believe that's rice and beans. So, and they're happy about these meals. I thank you for the time to come and talk to you a little bit about them, because I love this. This is the only job I can truly say, other than when I was in the military, that I love beyond all measure. Now, the reason I love my job in the military was completely different than the reason I love this job. And I'll take this job over that one any day of the week now, especially as old as I am. But I love this job. I love working with these kids. I love the chances I get to spend in time with them. So thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about it. I will be at lunch. You can ask me more questions. There are some picture-sized items back there that have how you can reach my blog. If you want to make donations or things like that, that's fine. However, to give you a heads up, in September, I believe, I'm coming back sometime in September, and we're going to give you the opportunity to sponsor individual children in our school for $200 a year. That will include 2 uniforms, a pair of shoes, their tuition, their 2 meals a day, all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to have photos and things that you can use to pick out your kids you want to sponsor if you so choose to do that. So thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure. I love coming to small churches. Y'all are vibrant and alive. When y'all sing, I hear everybody singing. And that's an amazing thing. I've been in a large church ever since they became large. We started small, now we're large. And you don't feel that all the time. So I love coming to a church where you feel that. So thank you. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Pat.